Hey folks, so I'm Dustin. You might have seen some content from me in the Battalion scene. I did some interviews with Fantasy and Joe Brammer, and I've recently been doing some commentary for some of the first tournaments of Battalion 1944 alongside my co-commentator Vince, or some of you from the COD 4 scene might remember him as Metis, but he goes by Vince now. Anyways, I've been around the scene a little bit. You know, I backed the game back in May of 2016. I've been following it pretty closely ever since then, and like I said, been trying to put out content, been trying to be involved in the community. But I want to take some time out to make a little video here to just kind of talk about Battalion 1944 so far in its first weeks of early access, as well as talk about kind of the eSports side of things, some of these first tournaments we're seeing and what we could be seeing in the future. And I'll be trying to do some content on a pretty regular basis for Battalion, maybe even have some plans to do like a podcast with some other people, and just, you know, as it feels appropriate to put out video or written content, I want to be able to be one of those content creators for the game if the community is going to support that and if there's something there to create. But taking the time out, just talk about things so far. First off, you know, we'll just start with early access for the game. We'll get to the esports side of things in a moment. Certainly Battalion 1944 didn't have as good of a launch day as maybe they had hoped. You know, from what Brammer kind of stated, they kind of underestimated how many players they might have, kind of basing their predictions on the numbers they had in the open and closed beta and kind of going off of that. And so that caused a lot of problems in the first day for the game, being able to get matches through the matchmaking system, whether it be for unranked or arcade. People were basically relying on community servers and private servers to be able to play the game on opening day. It's very difficult to use matchmaking at all. And so I think that, you know, since there was a lot of hype around this game, a lot of people interested, it certainly hurt that the first day kind of had so many struggles. You know, the first day could have gone more smoothly. You probably would have saw more Twitch streamers involved, so you probably would have saw a lot more eyeballs on the game in a positive way, maybe better initial reviews, and so things maybe could have gone a little bit better. So they took a little bit of a hit the first day, I think. But I will say, basically within the next couple of days, the game made drastic improvements in the matchmaking system, and I do have to applaud the devs for being very open and transparent and kind of admitting fault where they needed to, and trying to be transparent to the community on what went wrong and what they're trying to fix and what they're trying to accomplish. And again, you have to take things with a grain of salt because this is an early access game. You know, they're opening up the game earlier than a full release to allow people to get involved and provide feedback and to let people experience Battalion and its development from day one forward. And so, you know, I have to give props to them for that, and I have to give props for kind of the speedy fixes we've seen. I mean, we're only 2 weeks into the early access to this game, and if you compare, you know, matchmaking to the first day to just day 3, there's already a drastic improvement. And if you compare day 3 to now, definitely an improvement. Like, I can only speak from my own personal experiences and from what friends of mine have experienced. I can't speak for the broader community of players and the thousands of people who actually play this game, but I have no trouble finding games now on matchmaking for unranked or arcade. The only real issue that you run across now was there was at one point an issue where sometimes teams would be imbalanced, like you had 6v4 or something like that. And there's still certainly times where people will just straight up leave, and so you do wind up having to play 5 versus 3, or maybe you're on the other end, you're playing 3 versus 5, and that can be somewhat frustrating. But now, over time, they've added the ability for people to join a game that's already in progress to try to get it back to a 5-on-5. And let's be honest, unranked play kind of works this way in other games, whether it be Overwatch or like casual mode in Counter-Strike. There is no penalty for leaving a game in a casual unranked version of the game, but certainly there should be penalties in competitive, like a cooldown if you leave early. That's something you see in other games, like you're supposed to commit to a match, and if you don't, you're going to get banned from competitive for X amount of minutes or days, depending on how many offenses you have. And so I would imagine that once competitive releases for Battalion, that you would see that happen. And so the competitive mode, the mode that really matters, the one where you're playing for your rank, you should be seeing 5-on-5 matches occur, and if someone leaves, and there's going to be some type of penalty for it, just like there is in other competitive games that have a matchmaking system. So I think it's come a long way, basically, in being able to have stable servers and being able to get games on a regular basis without it taking too long, and all that good stuff. Some of the other issues they were having were, you know, obviously just crashes and fatal errors and things like that. Personally, I haven't had any of those issues really. really. I think I maybe had a couple of crashes the first few days, but maybe only like 1 or 2 in like 8 hours of playing the game. So for me, it was never really that bad. Again, I can't speak for everyone out there in the community. I never really had that issues. The one issues I did have was basically solved by me updating my drivers for my graphics card. And I don't mean I have an NVIDIA card. I don't mean just using the Experience software and updating through there. No, I straight up deleted my drivers using like another tool, did like a fresh clean install of the latest drivers, and at that point I had no issues anymore with the game launching or anything like that. Maybe for some other people that'll help them out if they're still having issues. Certainly, I just didn't really experience any problems really when it came to actual just straight up the game crashing. But there certainly has been like some host connection issues where you'll join a game and you'll like play one round, or you'll be getting it ready to go live the first round and the server just closes out, host connection loss. So there's been still some of that, but certainly it's a lot far better than where it was. So the point is I think there's been drastic improvements made in the first couple of weeks already, and hopefully we'll continue to see those improvements. We did just see VoIP introduced into the game, which I think was important to get that out and get that tested and get it working perfectly before ranked play gets unlocked, because I think ranked play without communication would have been a nightmare. And so I'm actually grateful that they kind of delayed releasing competitive ranked mode until they got all the matchmaking issues sorted, until they got all the crashing issues sorted, or at least to a much better level, and then making sure that voice was working properly, which right now for me, I've had a pretty poor experience with VoIP. Most of the time people can't hear me, I can't hear them, or it's very laggy, or it's very crackly. There's straight up sometimes where I'll press my talk key and talk in game and then my friends can't hear me at all. So I definitely think there's some VoIP issues that need to be resolved before ranked play can come out. And so hopefully we will see that improve quickly, just like matchmaking improved pretty quickly. We've also already seen some pretty hefty updates to this game as far as balancing goes, like the bar and STG just got buffed, for example. Earlier before that, we had the scopes get a bit nerfed on their accuracy when you're jumping horizontally. So there's definitely already been some pretty big balancing changes, and we already know for a fact that the economy system's about to rapidly change. We're about to move from a card-based system where pretty much the only way you gain or lose economy is by dying and cards being picked up, to a currency-based system where you can earn economy or grow your team's economy on more than just picking up cards. I mean, yeah, you could still pick up currency physically in-game, but you're also going to be able to earn currency through kills, through winning a round, through a bomb plant, through a bomb defusal, as well as some type of loss system, loss bonus system, I should say, some type of comeback mechanic, which I think was something a lot of people were calling for. I think a lot of people like the card system and the foundation of it, but were concerned that maybe it got a little bit snowbally, like there was really no way to come back if you're just stuck on default class and the other team has a shit ton of cards. And so having some type of comeback mechanic, having some type of loss bonus system, if I'm to compare it to Counter-Strike, I think was definitely a big addition that people wanted, as well as just other ways to earn, like make other things in the game important. Like as of now, planting the bomb means pretty much nothing except for extending the round for your team. Whereas, like, let's say you're in a 1v3 situation and you get the bomb planted, I think you do deserve a little bit of something if you were able to find a way to plant the bomb in a 1 versus 3. Maybe if you don't win the clutch, you should still kind of earn something for having gotten the bomb down, and it should encourage people to try to stop you from planting, and it should encourage you to, even in a situation where you feel helpless, to at least try to get that bomb planted so you get something. I like that added factor. It adds a little bit more, I guess, strategy to the game, adds a little bit more depth to the game tactically. So we'll have to see. I think it's good they're keeping the classes and stuff like that we're already familiar with, and the loadouts that come with them. But I think this currency-based system could certainly be a little bit better than the card system and could provide a little bit more. So that's one thing. And I know there's been a lot of talk that people are kind of thinking that SMGs are a little bit too strong at like medium range, and that you might as well just use an SMG over a heavy. But I know that the bar and SMG getting buffed kind of helped out with that dynamic, but you still could see some changes to the SMG going forward. I do wonder if maybe the horizontal accuracy while you're in the air still needs some tweaks. It does still feel like that's the strongest way to play the game, and sometimes you do feel kind of helpless holding an angle against someone who just jumps out at you. So I do wonder if maybe there is going to have to be some nerfing in that regard a little bit. I don't want to completely eliminate it from the game, though, because I feel like that's one of the unique things about this game that gives it some character, is being able to run out, jump out, try to aim, get some shots off. I think that it actually looks kind of cool, but I do think that players should be rewarded for having superior positioning, for holding good angles, and should feel like there is some type of penalty from just running and flying out. So I don't know. That's just my personal take on it. I do think it's a little bit too strong, but at the same time, I don't want it completely gone because it is a feature of the game that makes it a little bit different. So I'm not sure how I feel about it, but maybe we'll see some tweaks in horizontal jumping accuracy or something like that. I think keeping 100% accuracy when jumping straight up and down is fine. I think it allows for some pretty cool jump peaks and stuff like that. But I do think maybe when you're flying horizontally, there could still be some work there to be done. But that's just my personal opinion. We'll see what happens. Other than that, I know there's been a lot of changes being made to spec mode. Myself and Vince, through commentating some tournaments, have definitely been in touch with Howard from the dev team over at Battalion quite a lot, and we have a long document, like 2 or 3 pages long on Google Docs that includes all kinds of changes we want to see to spec mode. And some of the changes have already been implemented, like they've already changed the X-ray color to be blue and red, which to me was way easier than green and blue to tell the difference of. And we're certainly working on player bars because there has been some bugs in that regard where not all 10 player bars display. Also changing the colors on the player bars to match the X-ray color. Also syncing that up with the colors on the giant map overview. So there's definitely a lot of things going on there. Definitely a lot of tweaks and stuff being made to the spec mode to make it better. Like for one instance, like the giant map overview for coastal, like 2/3 of it's water. So trying to zoom in more on the main map itself to make it just a little bit easier to kind of see what's going on. So the point is the spec mode's coming along already, and Vince and I are certainly trying to help them out to make it more in line with what you kind of see in CSGO TV, because I think they do a lot of things right in Go TV for CSGO, and then adding some other features to the game that will just make it easier to broadcast, easier to follow as a viewer, easier for a commentator to follow as a commentator to be able to provide better quality commentary. And so that's something that we've been really involved in since early on and still are involved in. And it's great that the dev team is kind of, tapping our expertise as commentators to try to make spec mode better, and already seeing improvements just within a week from the first Blitzkrieg battle to the second Blitzkrieg battle. I think it's great. And so that's kind of really it for gameplay type stuff. I don't think there's really too much more I kind of wanted to add here, other than the fact that, yes, there's certainly been issues, and you'd be crazy to think that there wasn't. But I think you'd also be a little bit crazy not to expect it to be a little bit rough at times, just because of the fact that this game is in early access. Maybe you could argue that they should have let the beta last a little bit longer to try to make sure matchmaking was fleshed out a little bit better before early access. Certainly, I think there was some mistakes there at the beginning, but at the end of the day, I think that it's certainly moving in a positive direction. It seems to be doing so pretty quickly. I think it's great that the devs have been so transparent. I think that it's great that they've been so responsive to feedback, and I think that there's definitely a lot of potential to this game. It's just unfortunate that there was a little bit of the dropping of the ball very early on, which I think did do some damage to how well it was received to the public early on. But hopefully as the game develops and evolves, people will notice that, kind of give the game another chance, and hopefully we'll see the game continue to grow. I mean, that's always the goal, right? And now I'll kind of talk a little about the esports side of things, because Vince and I obviously did commentate 2 Blitzkrieg battle tournaments, like a weekly tournament series for Europe, and I think those are going to be some for NA. We've also seen some other grassroots efforts from a couple other tournament organizers like Fast Frags and Wise Frags have done some tournaments as well for Europe and NA. And I can't really speak too much about those tournaments because I wasn't involved. I can only really speak to the Blitzkrieg battles that we did, as well as like a show match that we did between Article 51 and Ocelots. So done some commentary. Really long days, really tiring, basically 10-hour-plus days for me and Vince, both the Blitzkrieg battles. So I think the quality of our commentary kind of degraded once we got towards like the semis and finals, because we had been doing it for so long. Like hell, at one point during the grand finals of Blitzkrieg Battle 2, Vince's voice was like going out, and it kind of degraded the quality a bit. But I think all in all, it's more of Vince and I just trying to learn how to commentate this game and trying to kind of transition into a new game, right? Not that we're giving up on CSGO, by the way. I think we're still trying to work in CSGO, but we'd like to add Battalion to our repertoire, so to speak, and be involved in the community. Like I said, Vince and I were involved pretty early on in the process when the game was still in its Kickstarter phase. We've been following it since. We've been in touch with devs since, and we expressed interest in commentating, and we got the opportunity to do that with Blitzkrieg Battle. I think the response from the community has so far been pretty positive towards the tournaments and our commentary, but I think we could definitely be better. I really think we're going to try to work on being better. I know for me personally, I can't speak for Vince, but this game is certainly a lot faster paced than Counter-Strike, which makes me feel like I need to talk faster to keep up. but me talking too fast can make it hard to understand what I'm saying. And so talking speed was something I even had a problem with in Counter-Strike that I really had to work on last year, and it's something I'm still trying to work on into Battalion. It's just trying to figure out, me as a color commentator and analyst, in Counter-Strike, I was used to being like, okay, you have some early action, the early part of the round, then there's kind of a slow down period, it's kind of a lull until the mid-round really kicks off, when people are just kind of getting a little bit of map control and setting up for the climax of the round, the big execute or the big retake or what have you. And during that lull in action is when a color commentator can come in, kind of give you some color commentary, because the play-by-play guy is usually covering all the action, all the hype, all the frags, all the big action-packed moments, the actual killing. Whereas when there is no real frags going on and people are really just kind of posturing up or getting some map control or setting up for something, that's when the color commentator can kind of come in and tell you a little bit about how they're setting up, what are they taking control of, and why. Maybe if they, once I build up enough of a database of knowledge about some of these teams and players, I'll give you some insight on what they like to do, what type of tactics you could be seeing, like, oh, I've seen them do this before, this is what they're looking to accomplish. And you can talk about maybe the different unique styles or plays that certain players or teams like to make or what have you, when we get to that point. And certainly in Counter-Strike, there's different tactics and styles that teams have that other teams don't, and that's what makes them different. That's what makes it fun to watch. And it adds that extra bit of insight and knowledge about the teams and players. And so I'm used to being able to do that in Counter-Strike and quickly being able to tell when the action's about to pick back up so I can pass to my play-by-play commentator so they can do their job. And in Battalion, it's a little bit harder for me to figure that out because I feel like early round, you see so many set nade kills or initial scope picks or whatever. And so you have that early round action, but sometimes there is no law in the action. Sometimes you see those initial early picks that the play-by-play commentator covers, and then you just keep growing because frags just keep happening left, right, center. Like there's just never a moment where it really slows down, and then the round can be over and we're just in a matter of 10 to 20 seconds sometimes. That's kind of on the extreme end. So yeah, in that case, the color commentator doesn't really ever get a chance to come in and really break anything down because shit's just popping off and the play-by-play commentator is just going with the rhythm, which they should be. And so obviously as a color commentator, I should know that I have that freeze time to kind of recap around, talk about what people are buying for the next round, talk about what we could be seeing next, kind of just give you an idea of how the game's going at that point. And certainly there are some times where maybe you get some initial frags in the early round and you get into like a 3v3 situation and things do kind of slow down just a little bit, and that lets me kind of come in. I'm still trying to figure out when to come in, how to come in, how to transition back to vents. Like those are things I still have to learn in Battalion because the timings are different than Counter-Strike. So it's because I've seen so much Counter-Strike, I recognize things so well there to make transitions, whereas in Battalion I haven't got there yet. So that's just kind of some stuff from like a technical standpoint on the fact that we still need to kind of work on our duo and work on how we pass back and forth. And I think through doing these online tournaments, we're able to kind of experiment, practice, kind of figure out how things work. It's certainly been helpful to talk to the players themselves. Like I know some of the guys from what was Ocelots, I guess, because apparently they're disbanding, but talking to some of those guys, talking to some of the players from like Article 51 and Penta and some of these other teams, it really has helped us in that regard, kind of learning things about the game and players and teams. I've also talked a lot to Lex. He's been pretty helpful, as well as some of the other guys from his team over on the NA side of things. So we have a lot of resources at our disposal, but it's just going to take time to get better and to learn the game better. So just wanted to kind of say that it has been a lot of fun, commentating these games. There is enough similarities to Counter-Strike for me that I know the basic concepts of map control, of trading, of crossfires, of utility usage. So I have like a foundation of like the basics of strategy for a team-based FPS that's doing a bomb defusal game mode. But I need to learn the intricacies and differences that Battalion offers because of the pacing differences and how things work in this game. So it's been a lot of fun so far, and hopefully you'll continue to see us do more and more. I definitely think we have to get to a point though where the work days are a bit shorter, because right now we're kind of just volunteering our time. We know there's really no investment or sponsors in the game yet for these events and tournaments, so it's not really a paid gig for us yet. We hope for it to develop into that. Obviously we're guys who, esports is one of our jobs, right? For both of us right now, it's kind of our full-time focus. For me, it's obviously been CSGO commentary and creating content for different websites and stuff, and that's how I kind of earn income. And I'd like Battalion to be something that I can do that with as well, and I think Vince is of the same mind. So we're just trying to get to that point, get to the point where the game grows, gets bigger, attracts sponsors, and attracts investment. That way people can start getting paid for their work. But for right now, it's kind of volunteer stuff, and I think you're gonna still see us probably do Blitzkrieg battles, but you may see us kind of splitting time with other commentators. That way we can work less hours, and we can also provide an opportunity for other casters to get a chance to commentate Battalion. So it's mutually beneficial for all parties involved. It also lets us provide a better quality product, that way we're not tired by the grand finals time, and we're still giving you like really good, alert, fresh, commentary and stuff like that. So we're gonna see how that plays out. We do know for sure that there is going to be one LAN tournament coming up in the next couple of months, which will be the first LAN tournament ever for Battalion. And we do know that they're trying to get other LANs going this year. That's already been kind of publicly stated. I have a little bit more information than that, but unfortunately I can't really share it. But I can just tell you that we're going to hopefully see a LAN for Battalion, or we should be seeing a LAN for Battalion very soon within the next 60 days. I'm pretty sure it's the first LAN that's already been kind of publicly stated, and then hopefully there's going to be at least a few more LANs before the end of 2018, really ramping up for 2019 to be when hopefully the game's gotten to a much better point and we're getting closer to kind of full release, and then we're getting closer to really trying to get like a more regular tournament structure in place for the game. So we'll just have to kind of see how it plays out. That's not totally up to me. I'm just letting you know what's already been kind of said and what I'm looking forward to. And certainly Vince and I are open to constructive criticism from those out in the community that have been watching the commentary on what we can work on. We're going to be doing self-critique. Again, I already know I need to talk on talking speed and redundancy, which are things I was already working on last year in Counter-Strike that I'm still trying to master. And then it's just about learning this game really more, and we're only going to get that over time by watching more games and commentating more games and getting a better feel for it. And we'll just keep going. Again, I think you'll see us at more Blitzkrieg battles like every Saturday basically for Europe, and maybe even on Sundays for North America. There's some other online tournaments that you may see one of us or both of us involved with. We're definitely trying to be kind of a duo and trying to hit the ground running and trying to be involved in this game while still doing some Counter-Strike stuff as well, because we have to earn a living somehow, and right now we can't do that in Battalion. So yeah, we want to be involved, and we're going to continue to be involved, and it's been a lot of fun so far, and we hope you folks have enjoyed it. And I think that's going to do it for this video. I think there's been a lot going on these first couple of weeks, and I didn't get to cover everything in this video, but I don't want this video to be an hour long either. I want it to be somewhat consumable, and I think 20-minute range is probably about right. Hoping for 15 minutes, but I kind of went over that. But anyway, if you folks enjoyed the content, you want to see more content from me and Battalion, definitely subscribe to this YouTube channel. Follow me on Twitter and all that good stuff. I'm always tweeting about stuff. There's definitely some CSGO stuff sprinkled in on the YouTube channel and social media, because I still am involved in that scene and still enjoy that game a lot. But certainly I'm going to be doing Battalion stuff, and if you guys want to follow that, just be sure to follow up the social media, subscribe to the YouTube channel. You should be seeing some more stuff out of us as far as tournaments and as far as content going forward. So yeah, thanks so much. Catch you next time.